Hello, Peter. My name is Mihai.
Hi.
I'm from Romania. I live in the UK. Zeitgeist Movement Romania says hello, even if I don't really activate with them.
Excellent.
Since I live here. Now, my question is related a bit to a documentary I saw. I think the name was Ethos. It's a bit related to the Zeitgeist movement, although I'm not entirely aware of what the connection is, but there's a lot of ideas that we're taking on and put into that documentary. I felt that it was a bit diluted to a certain extent, but the point is they've used Woody Harrelson as a presenter for this documentary. And, you know, coming from that, I mean, I work in the car design business, which is more or less like advertising publicity, and I'm you know, trained, conditioned to think a bit in this way. And I'm looking at all these movie stars, and in the case of Woody Harrelson that was promoting that documentary, and I'm thinking, shouldn't our communications team maybe concentrate their efforts into getting a lot of these famous people and kind of getting them to spread our message, because they, you know, their impact is, you know, 1,000 times more than what my impact would be into, you know, just kind of getting the people to understand what this is all about. As I'm giving the example of Tom Cruise, for example, who is a famous Scientologist, although I don't even know what Scientology is all about. It's probably a loads of...
Excuse me, what's your question?
Yeah, the question is, do you think this is a, you know, a healthy direction that the movement should pursue right now into trying to getting these, you know, these famous people like singers, whatever, movie stars?
No, absolutely. There's a thing, there's a project called the Zeitgeist Media Festival, which is a derivative of our Zeitgeist Media Project, which is currently a website where people upload various media they've created that support the movement. It's really an artistic type of outlet. And with the festival, I'm going to do my best when I try this, hopefully late summer, to get as many famous people, or at least well-known people, people that have an audience, to come and perform at this. Hopefully, hopefully volunteer. But there's a few people that really have shown an interest to do so. I completely agree that probably over politicians, over philosophers, people pay more attention to media personalities than anything else. I mean, our values, I think, in the Western world is really groomed by the movies that people watch and the TV shows that they watch, from my experience. Probably more so than anything else, in fact. It's almost quite scary when you see the influence that they have. So yes, it's critically important. I didn't see the Ethos documentary. They contacted me and wanted to use chunks of my movie that's in it, and I had no idea when I saw it, because someone sent it to me, and I'm like, well, how do they use this? And I got a little irritated because I didn't know memory of it. But nevertheless, Woody Harrelson being in it really surprised me. So that's amazing that they are able to do that, you know. So I completely agree. And anyone that has connections to any media personalities, I know that there was a campaign to contact lots of media personalities that were socially active a number of months back on the global website. So, yeah, hopefully, I think if we get maybe 2 or 3, then the breach will be made, and others will step forward and be able to not feel uncomfortable by supporting this direction. Yeah, I think it'd be wonderful. I think it's also right around the corner, frankly. I know underneath the surface there are a lot of celebrities people have mentioned to me that do support this direction, but they don't come out. They're not willing to talk about it, because it's their identity that's at stake. So it has to be comfortable for them.
Thank you. Hi, Peter. I've just got 2 questions. My first one relates to hydrocarbon technology, our addiction to it, and how do we wean ourselves off this technology and the geopolitics associated to it. How do you see us getting from where we are heavily addicted to the Venus Project, where we are not addicted? I know you've had a lot of questions about how do we get from here to there, but my question is mainly focused on energy. My second question is, have you considered a move into politics to take the establishment on sort of head on, and sort of take the Zeitgeist movement forward to like a voting public where people could even like vote for it?
Well, the second question, politics is really something that at the end of the day would be phased out as we know it in the future. It's not a legitimate institution. It's not based on anything but people promoting values, the public identifying with those values arbitrarily, no information, no scientific understanding, no education, no scientific knowledge of city planning, of any organization. When Sarah Palin becomes President of the United States, which would not surprise me in a second, it'll be a perfect testimony to what politics actually represents. It's this mind-numbing system of complacency where people feel satisfied when they hit that voting button, so they don't have to ever think about anything anymore. It's a self-generating oppression system, if you will. Completely
I guess what I'm saying is it's sort of
No.
it's almost like a step progress.
Yep. No, I understand what you're saying, and people have brought this up to me before, using the political system as some type of soapbox, if you will. And I've had people say, oh yeah, I'll run for whatever, and do it just for the publicity of it, which I completely support. I think you have to have a lot of money to do any type of political office run. So if someone has that type of resource, I would certainly say, I wouldn't do it. But I think somebody else, if they want to do in that platform, especially if someone who's been in politics for a little while that sees the light, but they're already in it, and then they move and do it, because what they're doing is they're moving into a system that they actually want to eradicate, which is a kind of a unique notion in and of itself. As far as the first question in the energy transition, we could do tremendous energy shifts right now if there was any interest to do so. Unfortunately, the investment that's required is so colossal and the return is so distant. The monetary system is driven by short-term gain. And if you can't get short-term gain, you get very little motivation, regardless of the lack of sustainability and the problems on the horizon. They should have been doing, even for the hype on global warming and climate destabilization, regardless of what you believe, it's obvious that oil is a problem in what we're doing. So even if peak oil wasn't real, there's still a very dire need to stop burning all of this stuff. They could have done this a long time ago, so there's a reason they're not, and it's the monetary system that's the problem. So how do you usurp the monetary system in that regard? Frankly, it would take a huge investor right now to initiate that, which you'd think would be there as well, just for a multi-billionaire that's willing to step forward and initiate these processes, but that doesn't happen either. So the answer to your question is that it's really hindered by the system. I have no idea, except the fact that you have to bypass the system. As far as I'm concerned, you're going to, as I mentioned in the film, you have to bypass the system if you expect to see a revision, a complete revolution, if you will, of energy infrastructure and energy sources on this planet, because there's no way in hell any government, any country is going to be able to afford it, especially now with the debt collapse that's spreading like a virus.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the biggest threat to us at the moment is energy and our consumption, and peak oil is the biggest threat. I think that if you could raise awareness for that, I think the first step, you could actually have people vote for a government that would freely support a not-for-profit sort of development of alternative energy. So you could have 700 billion or trillion or whatever it was investment in or people where they're working not-for-profit to find alternative solutions to hydrocarbon technology, etc.
You'd hope.
Yeah.
You would certainly hope, yeah.
People like yourself, for example, were to, from government or whatever, where that was key interest to bring ourselves off this technology, where people could go and research in an environment, in a not-for-profit environment that's supported by the state, that could perhaps wean ourselves off such a thing, and then develop this technology in an environment which is not-for-profit.
I wish it was easy to do as it is for you to say. You got to bypass the ultimate element of this system that supports it, and that's the need for monetary acquisition at all costs and the maximization of that. And unfortunately, and that's why it's brought up in the film in the way it is, everything that this system is about is against what you talk about, even with nonprofit institutions, even with governments. Look at all the attempts that's been made to try and get governments for decades now to change its energy policies, and what good has it come? I mean, even with the Green Party, you'd think that the public would be all about a Green Party in some country, but they can't see it. They have far too much experience with their little dyad of liberals and Democrats and the arbitrariness, and they're not comfortable even moving into something new, unfortunately. So I throw my hands in the air and say, I wish what you state would easily come to fruition. Obviously, your logic is sound, so I agree with that. But will it happen? Something's going to happen. That's for sure.
Okay, we've got to wrap it up.
I do know that something's going to happen.
Peter Joseph.